Hello, this is Jason. We are reading Who Was Marie Antionette, chapter 1 to chapter 3. I hope you like it and subscribe, and let's go into it. Chapter 1. The Archduchess. Emperor Francis and Empress Maria Theresa of Austria ruled over a large area of Central Europe. Maria Theresa, who had inherited the throne from her father, was a strong and determined woman. On the night of November 2nd, 1755, she took a break from her reports and other government paperwork when her labor pains grew too strong. In the evening, she gave birth to Maria Antonia Josephia Joanna. Emperor Francis announced the arrival of his daughter to the members of his royal court gathered at the palace in Vienna. Maria Antonia joined the household already full of archdukes and archduchesses, 4 brothers and 7 sisters. Another brother would be born the following year. It was royal tradition to give all the archduchesses the first name Maria. The girls were always called by their second names, so Maria Antonia's parents called her Antonia. The family spent winters in their palace in the heart of the city. In the spring and summer, however, they moved to another enormous palace, about 5 miles away, decorated with mirrors, painted ceilings, and tapestries on the walls. This palace had many rooms for each child. It was surrounded by the gardens and woods of a 500-acre park. There was even a zoo with a camel, puma, and rhinoceros. Even though Austria had an emperor and an empress, Maria Theresa was the ruler. Her husband, Francis, simply assisted her. Empress Maria Theresa was much too busy to watch her children, so she hired governesses to take care of them and tutors to teach them. As royalty, the archdukes and archduchesses lived a glamorous life. For fun, they spent hours riding horses and hunting. During the cold Austrian winters, they rode swan-shaped sleds through the snow. Antonia spent more time playing on the palace grounds than paying attention to her lessons. She had a beautiful voice and performed in family concerts, singing while her brothers and sisters played the music. In 1763, when Antonia was 6 years old, a special musician visited the royal family in Vienna. His name was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart was the same age of Antonia. Sources say that the little musician slipped on a well-polished floor in the palace. When Antonia helped him up, Mozart declared that he wanted to marry her. Antonia's father, the emperor, died in August 1765. Antonia was only 9 years old. The empress, now ruling with her oldest son, Joseph, had a new focus. She was determined to arrange good marriages for her daughters. At the time, royal marriages were very important. Royal couples did not marry each other for love. They married to strengthen the bond between 2 countries so that the country would support each other. Especially during times of war, Maria Theresa especially wanted to marry one of her daughters to Louis Auguste, the future king of France. Austria and France had a history of conflict. More recently, however, the 2 countries were at peace. Maria Theresa thought a marriage between her own family, the Habsburg, and the French Bourbon family would strengthen the ties between them. Antonia was the best choice for marriage. She was closest in the age of a dolphin. The French agreed to the marriage, so the empress began to prepare her daughter. She hired a ballet teacher to help Antonia move more gracefully. A Frenchman straightened Antonia's crooked teeth with wires. A hairdresser from Paris styled her hair in the most modern way. France also sent a tutor, Abbé de Vermond, to the imperial palace in 1768. When Vermond met Antonia, he observed, "She has a most graceful figure, holds herself well, and if she grows a little tall, she will possess every good quality one could wish for a great princess." The 13-year-old Archduchess was certainly charming, with her blue eyes, blonde hair, and pink and white skin. Yet Vermond soon discovered that she knew very little. Her tutors had let her do whatever she wanted. So Vermond now made Antonia study religion, French literature, French history, and the French language. Antonia was growing up into a fine young lady, worthy to be the new French princess. Chapter 2. A Royal Wedding. The official ceremonies for the marriage began in Vienna on April 15, 1770. The French ambassador arrived. He represented the French royal family, who had stayed back in their palace in Versailles. Over the next few days, the Austrian imperial family held feasts and balls for their daughters. They held a ceremony to represent and celebrate the upcoming marriage, even though Louis Auguste was still in French. Antonia was now called by the French version of her name, Marie Antionette. On April 21st, in the chilly morning, Marie Antoinette stepped into her golden carriage. Her mother said goodbye. "Farewell, my dearest child. A great distance will separate us. Do so much good to the French people that they can say that I have sent them an angel." The long procession of 57 coaches journeyed across Central Europe from Austria to the city of Strasbourg, France. It took more than 2 weeks, with about 8 hours of travel each day. Her attendants tried to make sure Marie Antoinette was comfortable. She spent her evenings in monasteries where priests called monks lived, and also at palaces. Her hosts arranged concerts and performances. Townspeople scrambled to see her. The Dauphin, future queen, was exhausted from traveling, but she had to act bright and happy for her admirers. The procession finally arrived at the Rhine River on the border between the lands of Austria and France. Tearfully, Marie Antoinette said goodbye to her fellow travelers. She entered the Austrian side of a building specially constructed on an island in the Rhine, just for the occasion. It was decorated with rugs, tapestries, and furniture borrowed from nearby wealthy families. She exited the other side to meet all of her new French attendants. Strasbourg welcomed her with ringing bells and bright fireworks. She collected the flowers that young girls threw in the path. Another procession of carriages carried her another 250 miles of where King Louis XV and his grandson Louis Auguste awaited her on a quiet road. Marie Antoinette stepped out of her carriage and rushed up to the king. She made a deep curtsy. King Louis XV was regal and handsome. He held her up and kissed her cheeks and went in welcome. Next, Marie Antoinette faced the Dauphin. Compared to the king, Louis Auguste was chubby, clumsy, and shy. They shared a small kiss. They were strangers soon to be married. The morning of the wedding day, May 16, 1770, Marie Antoinette arrived at the Versailles palace. She hardly had a moment to take in the splendor of her new home. Attendants greeted her with gifts from the king, jewels, pearls, a diamond fan, and bracelets with her initials. They began the task of preparing her for the wedding. Dressing Marie Antionette was styling her hair took 3 hours. In a white dress, Marie Antionette joined the Dauphin. He was dressed in a golden suit. They headed to the royal chapel. Here they knew at the altar and became man and wife. About 6,000 people have been invited to the wedding. They watched the royal family enjoy a feast in the newly built opera house at Versailles. Food was given out in the streets and fountains were filled with wine. Celebrations continued over the next 2 weeks, with acrobatic shows, masked balls, and firework displays. All France celebrated the marriage of the young couple. Chapter 3. Trying to fit in. The palace at Versailles was beyond fancy. It was richly decorated with gold and marble mirrors and thousands of arched windows. Paintings on the ceilings and the walls, sculptures and tapestries adorned the room and hallways. The gardens were equally fancy. A large body of water called the Grand Canal covered just a small part of the 2,000-acre grounds. Throughout French history, the monarch and his family had lived in Paris, France's capital city. The city place was called the Tuileries. But Louis XIV built a new place in the village of Versailles. About 12 miles away, he moved there in 1682. The palace was the home of the French royal family, as well as wealthy and important noble families. The palace at Versailles was also the seat of the French government. Every day, about 10,000 people walked its halls. Crowds visiting the palace could even buy souvenirs in the courtyard. Marie Antoinette had her own rooms, including a room for guards, a room for public events, a room for ladies-in-waiting, and a bedchamber. She was certainly used to a royal life, but she was not used to being on constant display as the future queen. She had to respect the rules and customs of French court, and there were lots of rules. French royalty followed guidelines about how to speak to people, how to dress, and how to eat. Each day followed a strict schedule. Marie Antoinette worked between 9 and 10. Most mornings she ate breakfast while taking a bath, wearing a flannel dress for modesty while in the water. Then she got dressed. This was called the lever, which means to get up. The lever was like a tourist attraction. Both men and women could come into a room and watch her get ready. Not just nobles, but common people too, as long as they were dressed nicely enough. I put on my rouge and washed my hands in front of the whole world, she wrote in a letter to another. The men would then leave, and Marie Antoinette's attendants would finish dressing her in front of her female audience. When she was finished dressing, Marie Antoinette attended a Catholic Mass at the Royal Chapel. Daily Mass was followed by a public dinner in the afternoon with her husband. Crowds looked on as if watching a show. She visited with the Dauphin with history aunts, King Louis XV sisters, and attended lessons with her tutor. Vermont, after music lessons and supper at 9, it was time for the evening coucher, which means go to bed, also viewed by whoever wished to watch. She finally was tucked into her covers at 11 p.m. Marie Antoinette had trouble fitting into this very public lifestyle, and even though her life was on display, she was often lonely. Her dogs, Mopes, had been sent to her in Versailles, but even the dog was little comfort. Her husband's old aunts were critical and harsh. Her attendants corrected and nagged her. Everyone watched her closely to see if she made a mistake. She got scolded if she broke the rules. Also, some members of the court didn't like Marie Antoinette because she was Austrian. In addition to all the new rules, Marie Antoinette had to get used to her new husband. Even though she and Louis Auguste were close in age, they were opposites. She was fun and carefree. She loved to be around people and attend parties. He was large and clumsy. He was shy and often sad. He preferred spending time alone, hunting or studying books. Marie Antoinette's mother lived far away, but she was aware of everything that happened in her daughter's life. The Austrian ambassador to France, Count Mercy and Vernon, acted as her spies. Marie Antoinette would confide in them, and they would report all the details back to the Empress in regular letters. The Empress scolded her daughter. She wished Marie Antoinette would pay more attention to her husband and spend less time at parties. Marie Antoinette felt pressure from her mother. "I love the Empress," she wrote, "but I'm frightened of her, even at a distance." In June 1773, Marie Antoinette started to feel more at home in France. After 3 years of marriage, she was presented to the people of Paris. She made an official entrance into the capital city. The Parisians welcomed Louis Auguste and Marie Antoinette with trumpets, cannons, and cheers. The governor gave them the keys to the city. Marie Antoinette was glad that the public seemed to like her. She was most pleased with the tenderness and eagerness of the poor people, who, in spite of the taxes which oppressed them, were carried away with joy on seeing us. The common people hoped for a brighter future. They hoped for an end to their poverty when Louis Auguste and Marie Antoinette became king and queen. Thank you for listening. This was Who Was Marie Antoinette, chapter 1 to chapter 3. I hope you like it and subscribe, and tell me if there's any mistakes that I made. I hope you like it, and see you.